So welcome to day 3. Yeah, so let me move on to the next slide. So yesterday, just a brief overview of the highlight from yesterday. Yesterday we spoke about how to find a value in your MVP, and you can only really understand that value when you have a clear understanding of your end user in mind. You need to be constantly in conversation with them, learning what they need and what they want to achieve. When you lead with a user-centered mindset and approach, you will identify the right value and proposition for your end user. So what now? Now that you have identified your end user avatar, you know what they want, and you know how you can help them, how can you actually deliver that value? And just a recap on our week, we are now on day 3, and today we will unpack more on how you can deliver your value proposition to your end user through design. This is an important element in product development. Even if you can perfectly communicate your value proposition to your end user and have them successfully launch and be onboarded to your solution, I'm sure your next goal is to retain them and ensure they can become a recurring user base. So how might we do that? We need to ensure our solution enhances the user's ability to engage with your platform. So today we will talk about how we can enable their full capability. Yeah, and since you know what your end user motivations and desires are, you now have the toolkit and insights to tailor the product experience specifically for them. What you see here on the right is the Fogg behavior model, which outlines the 6 elements of simplicity that influences a task difficulty. What we need to understand is that the ease or difficulty of doing a particular action affects the likelihood of a behavior to occur. To successfully simplify a product, we must remove obstacles that stand in the user's way. We need to make sure the experience is as simple as it can get to onboard them, then to retain them. So the user experience strategy here is key. We need to ensure the product we're building solves users' problem in the simplest way to get them from point A to point B, for them to engage with our product effortlessly. By looking at this table, we see that time is number 1. So how much time it takes to complete a task. And money, how much does it cost to take an action? Physical effort, which is the amount of mental effort and focus that is required for the user to complete the task. And social deviance, which is how accepted is an action perceived by others. Is it something outside of the norm? And last but not least, non-routine, which indicates how much is the action matching or disrupting the user's existing routine. By looking at this framework, I want you to think about what is the scariest resource at the moment your user is completing a task on your product. What are they missing? What is making it difficult for the user to accomplish a desired action? Are they short on time? If they're short on time, how can you expedite the process for them, and with what tool or technology? Are they exhausted after a long day? If they're experiencing fatigue, how can you make it easier for them to engage and perhaps automate certain things? So focus on thinking and asking, what is the thing that is missing that will allow my users to proceed to the next step? So we're going to do our workshop a little earlier today. And yeah, so we can put those framework that we just learned into practice. Do you have the link? Let me drop the link of the workbook in the chat. Okay, so I have just dropped the link of the workbook in the chat, and then we can work on this together. So you'll be able to find this question under day 3. And the first question I want you to answer is, what tasks do your users wish to accomplish through your platform? And once you have it written down, we can talk about it. Okay. Task they want to accomplish, get financial advice to make better actions financially speaking.
Basically,
Mhm.
open the app and see the numbers and also what insights can be useful for their decision making daily, something like that.
Okay. Because I remember you were mentioning your idea is a budget app, right? A budgeting.
Yes, yes. Related also to the privacy thing. Yes.
So the privacy is one aspect of how their information is being collected and used, and so they are aware of that. But mainly is it's not going to be shared with like third parties. So their information is safe with them for them to act on it in the way they are comfortable with.
Yes.
And then are you thinking of also one of the tasks would be they will be receiving financial advice for them to make better finance decisions?
Yeah, so I have one out there because like usually the task I put for myself when doing that, and I know I'm not the best comparison, but basically like I open to check how my finances went that month. So the first task would be kind of like check the past and understand where you are. And the second task is kind of plan. So because I need to plan ahead what I'm gonna do
Right.
financially, given what I know.
So one of them will be seeing your current state. So I guess like how much money you have spent so far, those kind of insights were data. And then the second thing is you want to be able to plan accordingly based on those information.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Would you say that is a primary task of what the user wants to achieve through the platform?
As per the current value, yes. Maybe in the future I find out that they want different thing, but yeah.
I see. Okay, perfect. Okay, awesome. So moving on to the next question, we can unpack a little more about which resource that you believe is currently limiting your user's ability to accomplish a task. So I guess we can look at it from two perspectives right now. So what resource do you think is limiting? And if you have spoken to anyone already, then what resource they have been saying that is limiting their ability to do any kind of personal budgeting or financial management?
Yeah, I think resource wise,
I can go back to the previous slide. Okay.
right now my MVP is pretty bad because like they would need to have my Power BI access and do a lot of it so to do that happen. But I do believe that the ideal it would be to open like an app that does everything automatically and just give the number.
Okay. Can you clarify a bit on what are some of the things that would be automated? Sorry, that's the word.
Yes. The whole cycle of connecting to banks, doing the data cleaning, organizing the data, and creating the graphs and publishing that into an app. This whole cycle would be automated for the user.
Okay. So which 6 of these, I guess, resource do you think currently people are lacking the most when it comes to financial planning?
I do believe everyone have the capacity to like go to the website, get their data about how much they spent, but there's a lot of like manual work or Excel work that they need to evaluate that data, make sums by hand or using a software and like get the total and try to find out where the problem is. All of that is like friction and goes through your rules on the top, I believe, like they spend a lot of time, and there's brand cycles going on that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, so it sounded like brain cycles because it requires a lot of mental effort for them to figure out how the different pieces work together, the information they need to understand. And then also sounded like, yeah, I think mostly brain cycles and maybe I'm guessing like time, like they don't really want to spend that time to do those mundane tasks. Like for me personally, I would believe those are some of the mundane tasks that requires a lot of time that just I will be dreading to get into.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. And adding money wise, maybe it's costing these customers, but I don't believe it's something they are aware it's costing them. It's
Mm.
they become aware as they do the budget. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Why do you think they're not aware of that just yet?
I'm gonna give you one example. Before I did
Mhm.
budget, I would never realize that I spend so much in food, and that majorly goes like in restaurants, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So that means if I get a service at home, such as HelloFresh, for example, and I spend 20, 30 minutes to do my food every day, or maybe get one day and do everything,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna save like $500 a week in the whole month because I did that instead of like going out and eating out every day. But I only realized that because like I actually saw that my budget had that high amount there and I wanted to find a solution for that. So that's how I found that that cost was actually something actionable.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, but this would not be like a money resource for them to engage with the platform, correct? This would be um more of information or data that you display on the platform. So they don't
Yes.
really have like a lack of money resource when it comes to engaging with your platform.
With the platform, no, no, yes, I agree.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounded like mostly it will be time and brain cycles. I would say brain cycle is probably number one. Great. Okay. Yeah, so I think it was helpful for us to identify like the cycle, or I'm sorry, the resource that lacking the most. So that would be something that you can focus your energy on resolving through the platform, or at least knowing like how your platform can deliver the most value to kind of tackle that lack of that resource there. So the truth is, you can have the most amazing function as part of your application, but if you fail to consider what's from hindering them the most from carrying out the action and make it simple enough for people to understand how to carry out the action, they won't use the product for long. Another note that I have on this is that users don't understand complex functionality. For almost every product out there, there's always going to be a learning curve as is a new experience that the user encounters. So how can we ease that learning curve to retain users is key. To hear it from Nir Isle, he is the author and the speaker and the consultant who's known for his expertise in behavioral design and habit formation. He said, any technology or product that significantly reduces the steps to complete a task will enjoy high adoption rates by the people it assists. So you might think that it's simplifying the interface and that's sufficient to ease the learning curve. It's true and it will. And if you can declutter the screen and make that call to action as clear as possible of how they can begin to complete a task, you'll likely increase the rate of them starting the task. But it's so much more than that. You need to consider the entire product or feature as a whole, holistically, think about how the entire task completion process flows. So thinking and looking specifically on how you get your user from point A to point B from the experience point of view, this is beyond just one screen, but how the different screens or steps connected. So what happens if if you only focus on delivering the functionality and neglect having a bulletproof user experience strategy? Users will have a difficult time onboarding and start using your product, and they're easily going to abandon the solution after first use if they can't figure out what it has to offer to them. And this is This is significantly more prominent in the mobile application landscape. Actually, there are, I think, 35% of mobile application, they only get the user to download their app and use it for the first time, and users stop or abandon the app after that. So thinking about how you can ease that experience is really important. And just like what I mentioned before, users don't understand complex functionality and they won't form a habit using your product, and your solution becomes easily replaceable by the pool of similar products out there. So these are all factors leading to low adoption and low retention rate. Users won't perceive the solution as the only one and the right solution for them, and therefore won't develop a behavior using it. And consequently, they won't form a habit engaging with it if it gives them the challenge every time they use it. So, how do we avoid these problems as a result of sole focus on functionality? You need to prioritize the ease of use of your solution and build an experience that is simple and enhances the user's ability to engage with it. So if you make it easy to understand and interact, you will bring your customer loyalty, retention, and ultimately organic growth. So users will come to your platform for that particular need or a particular problem, and they will begin to form a habit using it, and they will share with your network. So that would be attributed. So that would be your organic growth for your product. The key insight here is that habits are only formed after ease of use. So in order for behavior to occur, for people to start using the product consistently, you need to align motivation, which is what we spoke about yesterday, and finding that value and making sure that aligns with the user's goals. And the second is enabling ability, which is making it easy for user to understand and carry out an action. Does it make sense? Okay, perfect. Oh, you learned the one for yes, 2.0. Awesome. Okay. So how might we achieve ease of use? First thing you can do is leveraging the end user's existing mental model. So we live in a very digital world, and all of us probably use dozens of apps every day. We begin to accumulate experiences knowing how things work and how something operates. These experiences help us navigate new experience when we are first presented to them. So just like you, your users rely on their previous experience to navigate new experiences. This is why certain things are always structured identically. The simplest example is how all the social media apps kind of resemble one another. Since the inception of Facebook, probably the largest social media platform out there, they have established a user's mental model when it comes to navigating a social platform as to where the post button is, where the more button is, where the upload button is, those kind of little things. And the other social media platform knows if they build on top of that familiarity, it's going to onboard their users to use their product more easily. Another key element is simplify the steps as much as possible to get them from point A to point B. So obviously, despite the similarity of those universal patterns, there are key things that differentiate a product from one another. And the tasks followed then will be different depending on what you're offering. We might not be able to rely on those universal patterns. So we want to think about how our tasks can be simplified for them to still easily interact with the product. So I'm going to show you a few examples to demonstrate this of simplifying the steps. So one of the example would be taking photos with iPhone. We'll come across those moments where we want to capture something right away, but if our camera is out of reach, then we might disregard the idea and then we lose that moment forever. So Apple recognized that it could help iPhone users to take more photos by making the process easier. So they made it so easy for people to take photos from their phone by directly placing the camera button on the most accessible spot on the mobile device, which is the bottom right corner. And not only that, they enable this functionality directly on the lock screen, so users no longer have to unlock their phone, put in a passcode in order for them to take photos. It's more common these days after Apple has made this initial change, but a lot of other smartphones back then, they didn't enable this. So it requires a lot more steps and in this case will be the bring cycles to take photos, then to so it requires a lot more steps to take photos than to simply swipe left from your lock screen or tap the button on the bottom right corner to immediately capture whatever that's in front of you. And this, by enabling this swipe to shoot feature, it shortens the process. Okay. By enabling this feature, it shortens the process from something being 30 seconds to more to just 2 seconds. So some of the other smartphones out there before Apple launched this swipe to shoot feature, you will need to spend probably like 30 seconds just to unlock your phone and look for the camera app and then take the photo. And this just shortened it from 30 seconds to 2 seconds. So another example I will share with you is Yahoo search versus Google search. So Google was not the first search engine that exists, Yahoo was. However, they quickly gained traction after 1 year they launched, and by the end of 1999, they had taken up 60% of the market share, and by 2016, they had taken 80% of the market share. How did they gain traction so quickly? So they simplify the process for users to conduct search. They adopted a PageRank algorithm, which was able to deliver the more relevant and useful search results to their users. This makes the search process much more effective and time-saving. So on the other hand, Yahoo uses a directory-based search tool requiring more physical and cognitive effort for users to search. Another thing Google succeeded is making their interface simple and less cluttered. So they presented the search bar right in the center, making that call to action so clear and streamline the act of searching and get users to relevant results faster. Yeah, so if we just see the screenshots on the left, we have the Yahoo. The screen is cluttered. The search result is also not really streamlined, whereas on the other hand, Google simplified the whole experience by simplifying the steps for users to get to the relevant result faster, and also they simplify the interface so it's easy to spot where to take action. So on the topic of search, we all know the emergence of ChatGPT and how it's becoming more prevalent among day-to-day users for a variety of everyday tasks. So ChatGPT gained 1 million users within 1 week of its release. Why? They impress the users with their ease of use. The entire premise of ChatGPT is based on ease of use, which clearly reflects in its functionality. A simple text prompt immediately returns a clear and comprehensive answer. Rather than digging through the search result like what you needed to do on Google, it requires much less mental effort for the user to get to an answer quickly. Google, on the other hand, just fetches results. It's on the user to visit the ranking web pages and search for what they are looking for. This takes more time to get to a result of what they are looking for, despite supplying a diverse array of data. So let me share one last example before we move on, the Pinterest Infinite Scroll. So this is a popular digital pinboard site that makes it easier for users to browse and view content through their infinite scrolling behavior. Instead of most web pages where it requires a user to click and wait for the page to load, users can now see more results that load automatically once they reach the bottom of the page. Having this automatic loading behavior, users never have to pause as they continue to scroll through the pins or posts without an end. The load times sometimes can take a while, and 10 seconds is about the limit of keeping the user attention focused on the current task. If it's more than that, more than 10 seconds, most users lose patience and usually will want to perform other tasks while waiting for the computer to finish loading. So if you keep the users waiting for too long, they might eventually lose interest and be on the search for a different solution that works faster. This is just yet another example that shows how simplicity increases the intended user behavior. Okay, so now moving on to our next workshop exercise. I want to spend a little more time on this to figure out how we can really streamline the core feature on the product. And so first, what we'll do is to map out the current steps that require users to complete a task on that feature. Hi, Armin. I'm not sure if you have the link to the workbook, but I will drop it again in the chat. So for this exercise, the first question I would like you to answer, no problem, is think of the core feature your product is providing and map out the steps that require users to engage with that feature. So you can do it in like a flowchart, map it out step by step of how user get to your platform, start engaging with your core task. Or if you have an idea of how the user is currently engaging the similar process on a different app, say Vinicius for your example, because I know your product is still in the ideation phase. So if you know how other budgeting app or finance app works right now, how many steps it takes for user to, engage with the core functionality or core feature, you can also map that out. And then, yeah, so do it as detailed as possible.
Do I consider the first, like I never use it. I need to search the app and find, or
Yeah.
once I
Yeah,
have the
that's
app,
Sorry, go ahead.
like do I consider the time to acquire too, or do I think more of like once the person have the app, how complex it is?
So for this exercise, that's think from a perspective where they are first-time user, but they already downloaded the app on their phone.
Okay. I just downloaded one. Like I have an idea of what I would do, so I'm gonna tell that one. Yeah, let me tell here. So I was thinking like you get the phone, you basically click on the side button of the phone, you are going to unlock security of the phone, scroll onto the app, and I think all the apps work the same. So this is a cost for everyone. And once in, you need to go through the login page probably because like the person needs to be recognized. It's your finances important. Maybe have an MFA, multi-factor authentication. Once the person is in, then there should be a dashboard that shows the numbers like in a report in Power BI Online, something like that, where it's gonna have like your month budget, already have like a graph showing the breakdown and maybe one insight or something. So I would expect to be that easy. It should be good. Yeah.
Okay.
And I do all the magic behind like it. But the first time the person uses the problem because they need to set up their account and stuff like that.
Right. So you said scroll onto the app, well, log in, and then was it landing page and the authentication, and then they get to the dashboard.
Exactly. And have like a live dashboard of your finances that is always updated.
So once they're on the dashboard, what do you think would be the core feature that use on the dashboard?
Like a very clean, I would even do like a number in the middle, the total amount you spent, a circle around. I think they call it solar or something. It's like a circle that basically you have the breakdown in colors of like, okay, you spend this amount in food, this amount in that, this amount in that. And like if the person wants more details, the person can click on that color and it's gonna give a list down like, okay, you spend like this subcategory, you spent more in this subcategory, and a breakdown under that, something like that. But initially, you just see the numbers there, and you already are clear what you spent, and it can connect to all accounts, which I doubt like other apps may do, but ideally, if you have all of your accounts connected there, is best of the worlds.
Okay, I see. So I think from what you've described so far is a lot of information that the user will be reading. Do you perceive there to be any kind of actions that the user need to take from that? Like how would you act on those information?
That they need to read, I would put majorly numbers, and probably I would leave only one phrase of advice. Like that's something I can do. Like basically run a mathematical, like maybe an AI algorithm or ML algorithm, get like one insight and try to organize the insights that the model create by the one that's more relevant. And just drop one phrase there, like your core insight is this. If you want more insights, click here and then go to another page. But I would say like the main view would be how much you spent. A circle around with colors telling the basic breakdown of categories. And under it, your initial like advice. I see you spend more, for example, in food, and you're eating more in restaurants. Maybe you can save doing X. Something like
Okay.
that.
Okay, I see. So we can also think about like I know you mentioned the data privacy is one of the value that you are getting at with this platform. Is there another value that you believe that could benefit the user aside from that?
I believe this. So one, the privacy part. And two would be like aggregating the data from all your accounts, and that would be like the company work to figure out how to connect to all different types of banks. So aggregation. And the third value would be like ML AI insights on top of that, like what you spend more and how to make it better. Like one tip to make it better. Not that I'm telling the person you must do this, but one suggestion. So one suggestion. That would be like the dashboard.
I think there are also, I've seen like financial applications out there that also allows you to aggregate data from your existing accounts, right?
Yes.
From different institutions.
They also have that. Yes. So, and I do believe they probably use the same API. I was checking. So aggregation would be one thing. Privacy is the other. And the suggestion, so I do believe the AI part of suggesting things would be something to do. And maybe a differential now that we have the magic chat GPT and stuff, if I integrate an LLM, maybe you can ask like an AI, whatever you want about how to, like an AI trained to give you financial advice. Not, and we need to be very careful there, like, because depending on the financial advice, it can be considered like illegal and stuff. So it needs to be only financial suggestions. Yeah, probably like, let's say, okay, I see that I'm really creating this right now, okay, but I do believe this could be available. Imagine you look your numbers and you get the suggestion, okay, you're spending too much in food, but you look there and you also have like a high shopping rate and you're buying a lot of clothes. And maybe like I can ask the LLM, how can I organize myself to buy less clothes or to buy clothes cheaper? Is there like a best way of doing this? And maybe it would give like you more value.
Okay. Yeah. I think that would be really interesting. Yeah, I haven't done too much research on the AI ML integrations in personal finance or budgeting app yet, but I think the value we want to create, also how to get people to really engage with it, is they would need to take actions, because if we're only providing information, people would be asking, or I think it would be a little less motivational for people to start using this app, despite how informative those data are. I think there's definitely value in informing users on those information. Yeah, but the value have to come across. I think for people to really engage with the app, they will have to take action instead of just reading or consuming data.
Yes. After they consume, they need to take action if they want something more complex.
Yeah.
So we have an extra cost there in design. Yes. Okay.
Okay. So I think, yeah, we can brainstorm a little bit more about the steps required for them to take for them to go from like point A to point B, or once you have identified some of your key functionality of what you want to deliver, we can think about how can we really simplify those steps.
Okay. Oh, how many steps does it take? I would say click on the side button, unlock security. Scroll to the dashboard to get receive like the thing, or maybe act on top of the LLM to get like the result. So 3 or 4. I don't know if that's too much. That's a dream because I'm pretty sure it's gonna be like 5 or 7 with all the security stuff that they usually have more buttons to click. Yeah, I'll stay with 7.
Is there any steps that you believe that could be eliminated to simplify the process right now?
If there was a way to check security without having to go through all of that login thing every time would be amazing.
Yeah, I do believe that as well.
And once inside the app. Yeah, I don't know if there's another way of optimizing the app itself. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I think those authentication part that we talked about, some of them are pretty standard as well. So I would encourage you to think about like the main functionality or the main feature that you really, where your value will shine. So I think because you're also thinking about like AI ML insights, and then how we can potentially leverage LM to give users those financial suggestions, and then what can they do with those suggestions? Like, what are some of the things they can do on the platform for them to leverage those suggestions and make better financial decisions? I think that's something else that we can think about, and that would be the core. I think that would be the core feature that you can begin with for your idea.
Like budgeting, because the outcome is a plan, right? How can I make it better next time?
How can they plan better budgets or allocate better budgets for their coming months, you mean?
Yes. Or at least teaching how to plan. Something like that.
Do you understand like, or have some kind of understanding about how regular users are planning their budgets at the moment?
No, I need to do a research on that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of resource out there, but it could become a little overwhelming. I know personally, and from what I know of, I think a lot of people are using like spreadsheets, Excel sheets, those kind of things, like using data. But I do agree, is a lot of physical effort right now, and it requires a lot of manual work for you to plot in those different data points or different numbers. I think there is an app that does that, where you connect to your accounts and then they would calculate your monthly spendings, but I'm not sure how they
Mhm.
are. Yeah, I'm not sure how they're helping you with budgeting at the moment. I think it's more information based from what I understood.
Yeah, I'm trying to log in. I got the you need a budget. I'm gonna check on that one. How security have so many steps. Okay, I'll tell you later.
Mhm. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Armin, is there anything you would like to share with us?
Yes, of course. Actually, my app is a bit more like the Ring or Google Nest. I have basically designed a smart door. I patented a smart door, and I need an app to control all the IoT devices on it. So you have the common features of smart lock, camera, LED lights, displays on the door.
Mhm,
But then you have for the second phase, I have switchable glass actuators that open and close the door, a delivery door. Um, so I need like all the SDKs from all the basically other device manufacturers to consolidate them into my own app,
mhm,
and it has to be really easy to navigate through, and you have to be able to see if the door is open or closed, and look at the camera. But there are a lot of other features that I want to add. I don't want it to be busy and messy.
mhm,
Excuse me. I came up with basically a holistic idea of like how it would be like, but yeah, developing apps is very expensive because I have to do the physical door as well. So
right.
um,
Mhm,
yeah, I wanted to see like uh, how I can utilize your knowledge, and I have to come back to you, on this for sure later on. But for the time being, I just want to see like how I can make it more effective and
mhm,
user friendly.
mhm. Yeah, for sure. What is the core feature that you think your app is delivering right now?
I would say security, which is smart lock and the camera.
Mhm,
Then the other features, such as the display and the LED lights, are basically an add-on for the basic
mhm,
model of this.
mhm. Okay. Yeah. So I think one way to declutter, we can definitely unpack this. I actually have another session after this for the VIP where we unpack more of those workshop exercises and we can talk about your product in more deeply. But basically, I think one way to eliminate what you want to think about, essentially the main thing we touch on this work in this session is to eliminate the steps for user to get from point A to point B. So think about the core feature that you're delivering. And so so for your example, you're doing is mainly for security. So you want to identify what is the main purpose for user to log onto your app to do. So if they log onto your app to do a smart lock feature, you want to make that smart lock functionality or feature very easy for them to engage with. So could it through like a simple switch on the home screen, if it's the primary action or primary function of your app, I think that would be front and center on the home screen, and all the add-ons you can think about how you can incorporate them on a separate page. So that's one way of how you can declutter the screen. But what we also want to think about is make it as simple as it can be for user to engage with that feature, with the
Sure.
core feature.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, of course. And because I'm adding a lot of other features, but as you mentioned, I want to keep the core feature, but uh, I want you to be able to add more features, and they come in like they will be accessible, but not cluttering the page. So do you think like a beeping button would be nice? Like, oh, okay, now you have to look at the camera, or there's a doorman, so open the a delivery door box uh, alert, or how do you think I do this? Like I have like just a very simple button, like locked and unlocked, for people to make sure that the door is locked and unlocked. And then the camera features, uh, these two, I made it like the core of the page. Uh, but like you can check the temperature, you can actually there are different sensors on the door and that you can control, and later on you can open and close the door automatically. Uh, but I don't want this to clutter the app. I want it to be really very easy for the user to navigate through.
Right. What I would say with regard to that is, what I would personally do is to classify the different things that you have into different groups. So say, I think some of the smart home device or smart home applications also do this. So if you have different environments, then all the related functionalities will be in that page. So you want to segregate information to the point that it makes sense. So anything regarding the door, I think it should be grouped together. And then you have a button that says lock and unlock. I think using a button, sometimes it's quick and simple, but it doesn't really give you a real-time status. It's harder to read, in my opinion. If I just see lock and unlock, if it's on, like, how would I know if like the current status? So another alternative could be, say, like a switch button, if you have seen those, like the switch on and off button. I think that gives a better sense of the status of what something is. So when the switch is on, then you know it's locked, or when the switch is off, then you know it's unlocked. So that would be one way to, I think, to make it more informative of what that functionality does. And then another thing to think about is also like, how are the different features connected together? So if you might want to correct me on this, but from my understanding of just your explanation right now, like, is the camera feature connected to like how things are, like different things statuses for them to check, like if, say, the smart lock is actually lock?
Uh, no, it's always on. It's always on. But I'll have sensors when people approach. It will go live.
Oh, okay. Okay. So the camera is really just a sensor thing for them to see, I guess, surroundings. Is that correct?
Exactly. Unless you want it on and you can record. I want this feature to be also controllable via the app. That you want it always on. Do you have enough storage space for it? And or do you want it to just be turned on when somebody or anything approaches
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does sounds like you have a lot of different um features or functionalities, and then I don't believe all of them need to take prominence and take up the screen real estate on the homepage. Yeah, I think it should be, for your homepage, you really should emphasize on your core functionality. And if the core feature that you really want to highlight is a smart lock, I think that should be the primary thing on the homepage. And for camera, it sounded like it's more of a secondary functionality where people only need to engage with it if they need to, if they needed to use it. But if it's not turned on all the time, then the camera wouldn't really be necessary there. And so I think segmenting those features that you have into primary and secondary is very important. And that's how you will also segment it on your on the interface as well.
Thank you. This makes perfect sense, of course.
Have you mapped out the steps that it takes for a user to get to your core feature?
Uh, I have this try to basically simplify that, because I have the lock and the sensor that just you can make sure that the door is locked or unlocked. So it's just one step closing it, one step opening it. Uh, and that's just for the smart lock, not the actuator that moves the door. And then you have the camera feature. If you want it on all the time, you can say you turn it on, or just when somebody approaches the door. Actually, a lot of cameras already have the sensors. You don't need to have a proximity sensor for that, and they will be activated, and and then they will text you and alert you, and then while you're on the app, you can actually look at the person or talk to the person while you're having a live feed if you have a good connection.
Okay, I see. And then one last thing I would say is also, I guess this is a question for you. Do you have any early adopters for your app or product yet?
Not yet. Actually, I just had a joint project with actually a university. I have the mock-up of the app, but then I have to code it. So I'm raising funds. As soon as I raise funds, I have to basically start coding the app, and then I have to come to you for basically UX UI design of the app, because it's just too much work. I have a lot of hardware and electronic parts and mechanical parts that I'm taking care of right now.
Right. Yeah. I understand there's a lot of development effort, especially for you, like it's something connected to hardware as well. So, but I think building out MVP doesn't really require code. Sometimes it does, but I think just presenting early concepts to potential users and understand like how they will want to engage with this kind of feature, or why would they want to use the app in the first place to begin with, it's very important. And like MVP can takes shape and form and take different shapes and forms. You can even just have like video demonstration if you somehow happen to have like prototype that you can show people. I think that already will bring a lot of, it will give you a lot of insights as to how people would engage with it as well. So it doesn't have to be, I don't believe like MVP really needs to be a fully functioning thing. If you can start gathering insights or feedback from like prototypes, I think that will bring a lot of insights to you.
Sure, we're building the first prototype with BCIT, the research department, and but what we're using is basically we're using different devices. They have their own apps, and then we have a display, and we have to control them all on the phone. The LED lights, the display, the lock, and the camera, which is like Nest. The lock is Ultra Lock. So we have to have their apps. In the end, I want to be able to consolidate all these apps and control them via my own app, simply and seamlessly.
I see. So you're building a more like holistic space that also allow other integrations of other apps?
That's correct. That's correct. Because like developing those hardwares, it's just a whole new, actually needs I need to have a couple of lives to build all these products. So it's let's say off the shelf, but they're customized in a way.
Yeah.
But then again, I have to have like I think like SDKs of the apps to consolidate them into mine.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, and the last thing I want you to think about is, so why would your potential user come to your app instead of other smart home or smart lock devices or applications?
Because if they buy the door has features like you can change the face of the door, so you can decorate it the way you want. You can customize it. You have access to all the internals. So it would be a door that all these smart devices are embedded inside the door. That's why I said like you don't see them overhanging. You don't see the battery compartment. Everything is totally in a sleek way embedded inside the door. And then you got panels that you have access to them. So you only see a bottom, you only see a lens, you don't see the camera, you don't see the smart lock, but it's all inside. So it has to be the hardware has to be customized for the door, and I'm going to partner with some of these manufacturers for that. But then, yeah, I need an app to basically, because you buy the door, like all these stuff are inside the door. You want to be able to control the door. Imagine you say like, oh, I forgot how to lock the door or not, or Ring already has some of these features. You can open the door for a mailman, but one of the advanced features of my door is that it has a delivery compartment. So you can open. It's just like the dog and cat door in the door that opens up, and you can actually insert the delivery parcel, whatever that is out there, and then close it shut and safely. So yeah, there are a lot of things, features I've added to this, but the basic model, I'll try to keep it to the minimum of the lock, the display, LED lights, and basically the camera.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think really prioritize thinking about what would be the main thing you want your user to engage with, what delivers the most value to them, and then really highlight that or emphasize that through your interface design. And then once you also in that process, think about like, how would you make it into 3-step perhaps? If right now it takes like 8 steps for them to do something, how would you make it into 3 steps? Yeah, and then I think one of the main thing of decluttering is definitely segmenting different things. And you can also find out what people prioritize the most if you do some kind of research activities with your potential user. And then those kind of activities is, I think, is always encouraged or to do it early on. And actually one of the activities that Vinesh and I talked about yesterday was a cart sorting. So you can look into this to see. So if you do a cart sorting activity, it really helps you to see how users categorize different information or different feature into different categories. I think that could help.
Well, this is very useful, of course. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I'm glad that helps. So we're actually at time, and Armin, if you're interested to do a more like a deep dive on your product, we are having our VIP session right now where I'll be answering live Q&A, and then I also have additional resources and templates that I'll be sharing. But so I'll drop that link, and then let me know if you want to join us. But yeah, Vinicius, I'll see you in that room. But yeah, thank you both so much for joining today. Actually,
Okay.
oh, sorry. So that
Thank you.
me, oh, I just have one last thing. Let me just skip this. So for day 3 highlights, yeah. Let me just close the session real quick. So for today's highlights, first, we need to understand that users don't understand the complex functionality. When you're laser focused on functionality, you may neglect delivering a simple and intuitive solution that can easily onboard new users and retain existing users. And prioritizing ease of use is very important to trigger behavior and cultivate long-term engagement. By achieving this, it will bring you loyalty, retention, and organic growth. So we need to know that habits are only formed after ability is unlocked. So once you've successfully enabled user behavior to engage with your product, they will more likely to form a habit using it. And how to achieve that? You can leverage the user's existing mental model, which is what we talked about. Think about what their current experiences are, what are they used to, what are they familiar with. So those are the existing mental model, their prior experiences. So learn about their existing mental model from like other digital experiences. And if it's a new process that you're introducing, try to simplify the steps as much as possible to bring people from point A to point B. So that's a wrap for day 3. Yeah, thank you all for tuning in today. And tomorrow we will talk about validate. So basically how you can quickly gather feedback and pivot to make your product stronger. So that's the session that we have for tomorrow. Okay, thank you, Christy. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, then yeah. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you very much. It was very
Yeah.
useful. Yes, we'll keep in touch. I mean, I'll have to. It's my first day joining in, so I have to just figure out like how can continue.
Yeah, of course. Also reach out to me whenever if you have any questions.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you
thank you
very
so
much.
much. Yeah, have a good rest of your day.
Cheers. You too. Thanks.
Yeah, bye.